If you've heard anything about Elden Ring, you'll have likely heard it lauded as the Mona Lisa of Fromsoft. It is constantly referred to as a combination of the distillation from each and every SoulsBorne game's best quality. I want to start off right away saying I completely disagree with this statement. Fundamentally, Elden Ring has left countless of SoulsBorne's best qualities on the chopping room floor, and instead has inherited some of the series' worst experiences in general. The game has sacrificed some of the core principles of the Soulsborne genre, and in doing so, would fall to the bottom of my list of FromSoft Soulsborne games. And because it did this, it has secured itself the title of best game FromSoft has ever developed, has given a kick to the open world genre more substantial than The Witcher 3 or The Breath of the Wild did, and will go on to easily claim Game of the Year, likely being considered a leading contender for game of this generation and potentially define this decade in gaming. Make no mistake, I loved my time with this game, and it has been the most fun I've had with a game since I played WoW for the first time as a teenager. I haven't seen a game take the world by storm like Elden Ring ever. These are the Google trends for the last several games of the year, 1 month before and 1 month after their release, and none of them come close to Elden Ring's media presence. So let's talk about why Elden Ring is so good. Now, before I can start in earnest, I need to say this is not an explicit review of the game. I'm not going to be talking about specific additions, mechanics, bosses, NPCs, or storylines. This is a breakdown of the decisions FromSoft made that enhance the game. I will also be talking about specific design philosophies that have gone into making Elden Ring the powerhouse it is. Alright, let's get into it. Soulsborne games are known for being difficult to beat. They are seen as having extremely high skill requirements, confusing lore, and generally gameplay which is unforgiving to newcomers. This is going to seem dismissive, but these are very much the opinions of people who haven't spent much time with these games. I talked about this in a previous video, but Soulsborne games have some of the highest completion rates of any games out there and the lowest drop-off rates. It's just a fact that if you think these games are extremely unfair, then you're in a minority of players who have played these games, as above all else, the Soulsborne games are fair. The thing is, Soulsborne games are extremely hard to one-shot. That's not because the fights are cheap or the enemies are overly difficult. It's because each encounter has been tailored to be a certain level of difficulty when you reach it. Each enemy is placed in a specific location. Their attack patterns are given them for a purpose. The weapons and armor you have when you reach a certain area have been hand-picked for you to have on you at any given time. The enemies have certain experience amounts that they give you, so it's very unlikely you'll be out of the desired level range the dev had for you by the time you reach a specific area. The best way I can describe a Soulsborne game experience is a Rube Goldberg machine. These are machines set up to do a simple task, where every seemingly random piece has its purpose. Even though, when looking at the whole, it doesn't seem like it, each and every piece was placed for a reason. Soulsborne games are an experience that have been handcrafted to give you an extremely specific experience, and this has been sacrificed in Elden Ring. People talk about Elden Ring being the best pieces of the Soulsborne games without discussing how it lost the core principle of the genre. However, you can't have a truly open world experience that you tailor the same way they have previously. This means you have areas you enter where you are overpowered, or enemies that are far too much for you to handle when you encounter them. While it's this core principle of level design that has shot the Soulsborne games directly into the heart of many fans, this tenet has been completely abandoned in Elden Ring. However, because FromSoft sacrificed this most sacred tenet of the genre, Elden Ring has been able to take its crown as one of the best open world RPGs of all time. While Elden Ring is chock full of fun and fulfilling battle mechanics from each Soulsborne game that came before it, that would never be enough to cement a game as one of the best ever made so absolutely. That's because the battle hasn't fundamentally changed in any way, meaning there would be no way you could just put the same combat from Elden Ring into Dark Souls 3 and still be able to pull in longtime haters of the franchise like it does. It certainly wouldn't be enough to cause the game to be so relevant even now, almost 2 months after its release. It's From's absolutely unprecedented success at creating such an immaculate open world that's caused this. Open worlds are generally loved by people, and while open world fatigue is a thing, it's more like lackluster open world fatigue than actual open world fatigue. That's because many developers don't understand what an open world is. There is a reason The Witcher 3 and Breath of the Wild were so popular, and there is a reason Horizon was pushed aside so quickly for Breath of the Wild, and now in its second installment was pushed aside so easily by Elden Ring. While no one is arguing against the fact that Horizon is a good game, its open world has been measured against two of the best open worlds in existence and has been found wanting both times. What does Elden Ring do that can not only shut down one of the likely Game of the Year contenders so thoroughly, but also keep people's interest for so long? Well, that has to do with why open worlds are so fun in the first place. Open worlds are basically a novelty now. However, when they were first popular, they were a technical marvel. How could you have a world so open, so free, to be able to do anything you want? How can I just drive around a city without constant loading screens? I can't believe that I can visit places that have significance much later in the game right now. It was an incredible experience for its time, and it's one of the least compelling reasons to play an open world today. An open world is meant to do one thing in current times: increase immersion. While you are meant to explore an open world is not meant to be explored. While you can gain collectibles in an open world, they are not meant to be a place to store collectibles. Breath of Wild really exemplifies this aspect of open worlds the best. It's a wonderful open and free world with shrines, towns, NPCs, cool enemies, and much, much more. The example I want to showcase here is the Korok seeds. In the most out-of-the-way places, maybe connected to a puzzle, or just hidden under a rock, you will find these little creatures called Koroks. Finding them is a nice little surprise, going to an area you really had no business in being, and really helps show the player that everywhere is worth exploring. The more you find, the more they will help you in a lot of different ways. But the benefits end after you have found less than half of them. There is a reward for finding all 900 of them. However, what is that reward? A gold statue of shit. This is what I mean when I say you are meant to explore an open world, but an open world is not meant to be explored. Finding little rewards that increase the immersion of being in an open world is truly an invigorating experience. I don't think anyone who got all 900 Korok seeds liked doing it. And that's because those players treated Breath of the Wild's open world like it was meant to be explored. The Korok seeds were meant to add to the immersion of being in a world where there could be anything behind any corner. They weren't meant to gamify that open world. Searching for each and every Korok seed broke that immersion, and that golden statue of shit is a not so subtle way of telling the players this. I hear you, commenters, I hear you. What does this have to do with Elden Ring? Get to the point already. The point is that making a tailored experience like the SoulsBorne games are known for, where every encounter is set up specifically, would be a major detriment to the fundamentals of an open world. Fromsoft has always been a master in the art of creating video games. They know this. They've learned from their own games, and more importantly, they've learned from the examples of the past. Elden Ring is not by any stretch of the imagination a Breath of the Wild clone. However, it is not a coincidence that these two graphs of their first months are extremely similar. This is the graph that truly spectacular open world games have. because they permeate through the gaming world in a way no other game can. What is it that some open worlds, and specifically Elden Ring, do so well? They take you on an honest-to-goodness adventure. Adventure is one of the core pillars that help games stand out in the art of storytelling. While we can watch beloved characters setting out in the cinema or be taken on a journey by a friend with the words of a book, rarely can we go on an adventure ourselves outside of a video game. While a game is your best chance to go on an epic adventure, they rarely take the time to make that adventure authentic. Games will often, like other forms of media, spend a lot of time focusing on the destination rather than the journey. You don't have to look any farther than quest markers to understand this point. Quest markers inherently take some of the immersion and adventure out of the open world. An NPC could tell you where to go, or you could get a map with an X on it. There are any number of ways to authentically help a player get from point A to point B, but a quest marker is the least intuitive and laziest way to do that. Quest markers are something to be blindly followed. I don't even have to look at the terrain around me. I just have to look at this little section right here to get to point A from point B. The conscious decision not to add them makes all of this the focus of the game instead. I think I can best sum this up with a comment I got on my Elden Ring lore video. The commenter said they loved the game, but wanted to know why we are doing what we're doing. Why do we want to be Elden Lord? I told the viewer the TLDR version is because we can. In the end, that's most video games in a nutshell anyway. Why is our specific character doing this specific thing? No matter what, there's an amount of suspension of disbelief we need to go through to be okay with whatever the answer is. Since we're the ones controlling the main character, what we need to do and what we want to do are rarely lining up. However, game developers will hyper-focus in on that one aspect of gameplay because it's such a pivotal focus of the popular medias like cinema and literature. Motivation of the character is incredibly important in a book and movie because they are 100% controlled by the creators of that media, and it breaks the immersion when they do something counter to their inherent belief structure. How does this relate back to the commenter's question? Because he loved the adventure without ever caring about why he was doing it. He only wanted to know why after the fact. In an adventure, the why is rarely the most important part of the experience. Most books focus on a quest or a pursuit of a main character, and we get to enjoy the adventure along the way. In a video game, though, I don't care if I save the world. It's not my world. I'm not stopping world leaders from nuking civilization into oblivion. I'm playing a video game. When I beat Elden Ring, I didn't think it was a 10 out of 10 because I knew the lands between were safe. I wasn't giddy at the prospect of my character being the new Elden Lord. While sure, it was satisfying, it's not even when I stopped playing. I went right back out there and kept exploring. Why? Because the destination doesn't matter. Quest markers are great when you're telling a specific story, but in an open world, they're reductive. I mean, there are games where the destination is of key importance, and those games are not worse off for it. However, these games are generally not open world games, and if they are, then while they might be a decent game, they are not a very good open world game. So, what is Elden Ring's secret? I've heard it said that Elden Ring is like an abusive relationship, which is absolute dog shit. But I actually like the metaphor. I like the similarities between the way the game will grow on you and the way a relationship with another person will develop, so I'm going to go with it. Before you ridicule me for wanting to the game, the definition of relationship is the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. So you share a relationship with everything you interact with in some sense. So ha. Now, onto the metaphor. Have you ever met a friend through a friend? Like your friend Alice, let's say, was hanging out with their friend Bob. You had never met, and now you're all hanging out. So Alice, Bob, and you are all hanging out, and now you kind of get to know Bob. However, it's just Alice supplementing the work it would take for you to build your guys' relationship by telling you about Bob and Bob about you, without the two of you really doing much of the groundwork. Now, you might hang out with Bob again if you have no other friends around, and neither does he. But did you two really hit it off? Maybe, but probably not. Well, that's what most tutorials, map markers, quest logs, UIs, and immersion-breaking developer help is like. The developer is trying to introduce you into the game because they want you to like the game. In doing so, the game doesn't get a lot of opportunity to form a natural bond with you. Your interaction with the adventure is specifically curated to what the developer wants. Now, back to the metaphor. If Alice introduced you to her friend Carl and lets the two of you get to know each other over a pint and maybe occasionally brings up something you both share that neither of you would have brought up on your own, then that relationship can start to grow naturally. Now, you may hate or love Carl, but the relationship itself will grow much more naturally, and if it takes root, it will have a much firmer foundation. This is one of the ways Elden Ring is so polarizing. While no heavy hand has ruined some people's ability to form a natural bond with the game, others have really been able to find a lasting connection with the game and its themes. There are examples of the developers using this philosophy all over Elden Ring. Look at the starting map of the game. While it is actually an incredibly large area, it's incredibly small for what it's going to be. It will likely be hours before you even realize that's not the full map size. Even after the map increases in size, most people will be floored when they go underground for the first time. Because while they may or may not know about the map, it's insane that there's so much hidden right beneath their feet. You will die in Elden Ring, and a lot of the time it's because you just messed up. But other times, maybe you're just tackling something you're not ready for. We all have things about ourselves we don't want to talk about with other people. So don't ask me how my mom died right after meeting me. Maybe if you find out that she's passed, you kind of just avoid the topic until our relationship has progressed enough to talk about it. This is literally one of the things that will happen in Elden Ring. Not finding out it had a parent die, but encountering the Erdtree Sentinel. Now, you can also face a grueling obstacle with a close friend as soon as you form a relationship with them, and coming out on top makes that friendship stronger. No matter what you do with the Sentinel, as long as you don't give up, you'll be closer to Elden Ring when he finally dies. And if you never kill him and give up, you'll have a very bad memory of the time you spent with Elden Ring. You and the people around you have more in common than you'll ever know. Yes, the devs know that you can complete a quest by going to a point X. And sure, they could give you a quest marker, but sorry, that's your job to figure out. Fromsoft isn't just going to give away all of their friends' secrets. You have to work for it, and that's rewarding. Learning more about the game in a natural way will help you deal with the game without the devs' help much faster. Reading item descriptions, fighting bosses, discovering secrets all on your own. That feels good. If you love this game, you'll likely feel some sense of pride in what you've done. You feel good about the bond you've made with Elden Ring. You also died a lot, gotten lost many times, walked into something you shouldn't have, walked yourself right off a cliff and been punished for it. Yet you still love the game, while the people who hate it likely gave it up before they even reached the hub. Yes, the combat is stellar, but many games have good, if not better, combat. Yes, the graphics are gorgeous. But again, other games have better. Yes, the lore is so amazing. But so many games can say the same thing. Hundreds of other games have elements of what Elden Ring has, but none of them have ever done this. The way Elden Ring does it differently is that it uses all of these things that so many people have done before and reimagines how an open world should be. By treating the player's relationship with the adventure as sacred, giving you a sense of wonder and accomplishment even though you don't care about the end goal. You still feel good about each accomplishment. It's why so many people say Elden Ring has broken the mold of open worlds, and why so many others can't even comprehend why anyone would ever think that. If you don't put in the work for a relationship, your potential best friend ever could be just some dude you've only talked to a handful of times. This is why Elden Ring is the best open world of all time. Every enemy, NPC, item, hidden lore piece, and death is something that exists in a world that's alive. There is more to a person than you will ever know. Even the person you are closest to has something about themselves they would never tell you. However, you will always learn more about them as you spend time with them. Elden Ring wasn't designed with a checklist in mind. It was designed to be an age past the fall of a civilization. It was designed so that a player could complete everything about the entire game and love it, or complete the bare minimum and still thoroughly enjoy their time in the game. No quest log with a failed quest holding them down. No checklist with some grayed out spells. No half filled out bestiary. Deliberately keeping these out of the game allowed Fromsoft to develop an honest to goodness, real adventure through the best open world of all time. Anyway, that's my shot at why this is the best open world RPG ever created. If you want to hear some absolutely insane and ridiculous claims about the lore from someone who has made a video claiming about forming a relationship with that game, click here. If you hate me and want to make sure I know about it, the best way to do that is to click here on my newest video. And after watching it, leave me an angry comment below telling me so. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.